A TGIF, everyone. Welcome into the First Call podcast, back in our Friday haven. It's Jeff Siegel and Jeremy Plonk from First Bet and Express Bet. We'll be back on that Thursday track next week when we get to the Preakness Stakes, get moved up ahead of the Black-Eyed Susan and Preakness card. But we're happy you joined us this week again. Big news on Friday. In fact, two news fronts. One at Churchill Downs, Jeff, where the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission and the stewards met yesterday with Tyler Gaffalione for his ride aboard Sierra Leone in the Kentucky Derby. And just as they did in the Derby, no change, I guess, is what we're going to say here. They didn't even give an inquiry in the Derby, and no fine, no suspension for Gaffalione for reaching out and putting his hand on his rival, Forever Young, in the stretch, which to me is implicitly in the rule book that you can't do.
Well, the stewards weren't going to do anything because that would implicate them, and they don't need any more heat than they already got and already deserved. So that was a no-brainer. I mean, nothing here to see. Move on, folks. And it still is one of the worst decisions I've ever seen that did not involve the winner, because it didn't. It wouldn't have changed the winner.
Right.
But an awful lot of money was bet second place show, exacta tries, and supers. Yep. There's a lot of people who are wondering what they had to do to cash a ticket that day and why that result wasn't changed. But again, it's something to talk about, but nothing's going to change it.
Yeah, I mean, more than $75 million in the exact try and super pools, much less the place and show pools. So, I mean, yeah, we're talking upwards of $100 million that decision or non-decision would have impacted, much less the purse money between second and third, 20%, 10% to the connections involved. So there's a lot of money involved there for nothing to happen. And really, when it's an implicit violation of the rule book, as it was, it just opens Pandora's box. I mean, are we going to say that reaching out and touching another horse is now going to be a judgment call? It has to be malicious intent, not just, mistakenly reaching out and getting tied up in the reins or something. I mean, he obviously purposefully reached out with his hand. We've seen this before. I mean, we showed the video and the picture of the Remsen Stakes when it wasn't Gaffalione, but when it was Jose Ortiz doing the same thing with the arm as Sierra Leone was leaning in to door knock in the Remsen Stakes. So the horse obviously has an issue coming in. Well, hopefully that won't play out when we see him again, probably in the Belmont Stakes. We will not see Sierra Leone, of course, back in the Preakness Stakes. Field of 9-10 shaping up for the Preakness in a week's time. They will enter the Preakness Stakes on Monday, and we'll have your first Preakness Stakes wager guide set to go for you on Monday as well. All the handicappers around the First Family and on track there at Pimlico, giving you our insights to the middle jewel of the Triple Crown, the 149th Preakness, now just 8 days away. Can't wait for that one. Now, Jeff, we've got a $104,000 pick six carryover today at Santa Anita as they start the race week. I know you've done your full card analysis and handicapping. You also have your prime plays video that you put up on your YouTube channel, Jeff Siegel Racing. We're going to give the fans a chance to see your key prime plays on today's pick six at Santa Anita.
$104,000 pick six carryover to shoot for on Friday at Santa Anita. We have two prime plays, fourth race and the sixth race. So these are possible singles if you're playing the pick six. Fourth race, starter allowance grass event for fillies and mares. Number 4, Pink Ace on the comeback trail for trainer Phil D'Amato. She won her debut, so we know she can run well fresh, and she is really training well. Take a look at this breeze not too long ago. This was a gate work. Pink Ace is on the inside of the 3. She's going very easily here. Eventually, she's going to go 5/8 and 59 and 2. Excellent work. She's going to wind up second to her stablemate. But Pink Ace is never asked at any stage. You can see her on the inside in the white cap, and I love the way she is going to finish here. You can see her breezing every step of the way, so I think Pink Ace is fit and ready. I think she's going to be very tough to beat in the fourth race at Santa Anita. Jump ahead of the sixth race. This is another starter race, starter optional claimer. Number 3, Yellow Sundress. Very impressive breaking her maiden for Mark Glatt. Take a look at this race. This was a grass race here at Santa Anita. You can see her on the outside. She is going to wear down her stablemate, who was very well met in this race as well, Jay Ho. But Yellow Sundress, much the best in the final stages. A little green on her left lead, but she's full of run, and she's going to gallop out strongly. This race earned a huge number. I think she comes right back and wins again. That's number 3, Yellow Sundress, in the sixth race on Friday at Santa Anita.
So we'll have that pick six for you. First bet and express bet. That's where you want to play it. Races 3 through 8 today at Santa Anita. Jeff and I agree. Yellow Sundress in race number 6 was one of my singles. I handicapped last night sitting on the patio. Got a little cool. Had to come inside, but was handicapping last night for the pick six at Santa Anita. And I had one of the same singles as Jeff does. So Yellow Sundress, race number 6, the one that we're both going to lean on today. $104,000 pick six carryover at Santa Anita. Of course, you're tuning in here for the First Call podcast. You expect weekend stakes handicapping, and that's what we've got for you. So for the benefit of those of you on our audio channels, here is the schedule for handicapping today on the podcast. We'll start at Belmont at the Big A. Aqueduct hosts the Bugay, the Runhappy, the Peter Pan for 3-year-olds potentially headed towards the Belmont Stakes, and the Man o' War on the turf. At Churchill Downs, we'll go back to the home of the Kentucky Derby for the Mamselle turf sprint there for the fillies and mares. Gulfstream Park's got 2 races with Royal Ascot implications. Automatic berths to summer stakes at Royal Ascot go forth in the Royal Palm Juvenile fillies, race 8, and in the 10th race, the Royal Palm Juvenile. Those are from Gulfstream on Saturday. And Santa Anita's Saturday main event is the Santa Barbara. If you like playing handicapping tournaments, no major tournaments this weekend, but some very affordable feeder tournaments to get you into more lucrative contests. Get set for the Preakness Day contest at Pimlico with feeders costing just $80 a day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Pimlico. And then we've got $40 handicapping tournament feeders for Santa Anita tournaments coming up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Big promo this weekend. Hit the pick 5 on Saturday at Belmont at the Big A, and you could split upwards of $10,000 with other players who hit the sequence on the first and express bet platforms. $10,000 hit and split for the late pick 5 Saturday. Belmont-at-Aqueduct. All right, Jeff Siegel, let's get handicapping on this program for Saturday, May 11th. Belmont at the Big A, starting early in the day with their stake schedule. Second race on the card is the Bugay, and we've got a field in here of distaffers on the turf. You're always looking for Chad Brown in these kind of races. Chad Brown, distaff on the turf, and as you go through, you've got one in here, a spray that could be tough.
Yeah, he's got actually the 2 favorites here, assuming this race stays on the grass. We're recording this on Friday, and I think they're off the turf today, if I'm not mistaken.
They are off today, yes.
But it should be fine for tomorrow, or at least usable. And we've got 3 here on the main track, only the bottom 3. So we're only going to get 5, 2 of which are Chad Brown's. He's got White Beam, who's the even money favorite, who won the Diana last year and is an older mare with proven old form against older horses, and hence why that's why she's the favorite. But Spray is the one I'm picking. A comebacking now 4-year-old filly. She was very good last year at 3. In fact, she won 4 out of 5 for Chad Brown. And it looks to me like, I mean, both of these have trained forwardly and should be plenty fit. I went with the younger one. I don't know whether Flavian Pratt had his choice. He was the regular rider for White Beam last year, regular rider for a Spray. He shows up on a Spray. Maybe he had a choice, maybe he didn't. I don't know. But her numbers were rising when she was put away for the winner and coming back now for Chad. And I think she's going to be an outstanding older 4-year-old filly. And I think she'll be able to handle the step up to the older ranks very, very well. Very impressive when last seen in the Lake Placid. So I'm going to go with her on top. She's slightly the better of the price, not much better, 7-5, but 5-horse field. Shouldn't have any excuses for either one of them.
It's been a while since we saw her, so let's take the fans back to Saratoga for a spray in the Lake Placid.
They're at the top of the stretch, and Glorious Princess up to take the lead, but a spray comes right to her at the 8th pole, and a spray goes right on by. Surge Capacity is coming alive in the center of the course, but it's a spray with a 3-length lead, and what a performance from a spray under Flavian Pratt, hand-ridden, coasting home in the Lake Placid. Surge Capacity.
This looks like a Chad Brown exacta, a spray, and White Beam. If you're going to try to split them, maybe the one Quarrel, good front-running turf jockey, and Javier Castellano. You get the rail and a small field. Sometimes speed can kind of slow things down and control it. If you're going to split the pair in the exacta, maybe Quarrel in here, but it sure looks like Chad Brown in one of his patented 1-2 kind of finishes in these Philly Mare Turf Stakes, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, he's just starting the season off with both of these, and there are major races in their future, and this is just a starting point. But they've, like I say, their work pattern suggests they're both plenty fit.
Let's turn our attention now to race number 4 on Saturday at Aqueduct. It's the 6 furlong Runhappy Stakes, grade 3 here. Field of 6. I know you like a horse, Straight No Chaser, who you've seen out on the West Coast.
He's a very, very fast horse. In fact, when last seen, he won the Maryland Sprint. I believe that was I think it was Preakness Day, if I'm not mistaken. He won that race by 7. He ran 108-1. He earned a 107 Beyer number. Prior to that, he earned a triple-digit Beyer number at Oaklawn Park. He's much faster on pure numbers than anything in this race. The question is whether he's fit enough. He obviously won his debut, so he can run well fresh. And he looks like he's trained very, very well for the Dan Blacker barn. Now, Dan's on suspension, so the assistant's doing the job here, but he's done a great job so far in the absence of Dan. And you can see this breeze, 59-1, bullet work, fastest of 40. Not really being asked at all. It looks like he's coming back really well. I was kind of curious as to why they brought him back at Belmont, actually Aqueduct, rather than Pimlico. Well, there's got to be a race for him next week, but he's fit enough to run here. And again, this is a weird race because it's a sprint, but there's no speed in the race other than him, really, if you look at it. I mean, Durrani likes to lay fairly close, but he's nowhere near as quick as Straight No Chaser. So Johnny V should put him on the lead and then coast, I would think, if he's fit enough. And the way he's been working in the work tab suggests that he is plenty fit for ready to roll for to pick up where he left off last year.
Joey Freshwater coming off a huge number last time for Linda Rice, a 105 Beyer that you just look at it, you say, where'd that come from?
I don't know.
They've been running in the 80s and then suddenly ran through the wind there, 109-2. So we'll see if the public jumps on that number and Fig and bets that one a little harder. But Straight No Chaser's got to be a short price in this particular spot. You'd have to think, given the number of just blowout victories on his form, even off the layoff, you think, like you said, he's training well, should be tough to beat. Straight No Chaser, Jeff's top pick in the Runhappy Stakes. Let's go back and look at the schedule of races that we got for you this week on the podcast. And at Belmont Park, we'll go next to the Peter Pan Stakes. This is the traditional local prep, kind of local this year for the Belmont Stakes. It's at Aqueduct. And of course, typically this is a Belmont to Belmont prep, but with the Belmont Stakes this year moved to Saratoga coming up in about 4 weeks' time. The Peter Pan's a little bit different this year. Mile and an eighth. It's a 2-turn race here at Aqueduct, a 1-turn race when it's run at Belmont. So this isn't your typical 1-turn mile and an eighth at Belmont. Just go over the Big Sandy mile and a half. We've got 8 entered in this race, but Lonesome Boy is going to scratch and the 5 Tuscan Gold is going to scratch. The latter in favor of running in the Preakness Stakes in a week's time, where I think he's a live wire in there. So take out the 4 and the 5, Wine Steward the 3, and Deterministic the 7. Jeff, these are the 2 that are going to get all the attention.
Yeah, I was kind of puzzled here. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Christophe Lamont as a trainer, and after running so poorly in the Wood Memorial and a colt by Liam's Map out of a mare by Speightstown, I thought that he might conclude that maybe he's just a 1-turn horse, maybe he's a good miler, and maybe we should concentrate on those races. And yet here he is trying the same thing again, the same track that produced such a poor run in a race that I didn't think he had that much of an excuse. He got behind horses, but he just kind of quit, and I don't know. He's got a 47 breezing, second fastest of 178 that day on that Belmont training track. So maybe that work opened his eyes and said, look, I'm going to give this colt one more chance. He's doing well. Maybe it was something that happened to him that I just can't find. So I went with Deterministic, but only because of the respect for the trainer. That's the only thing. If he thinks this colt's good enough to give him one more chance, maybe I should as well. I mentioned last week when we were handicapping the Derby that I wasn't that impressed with those coming out of the Louisiana Derby. And Aquarian was 6th in that race. He threw a fit in the gate and broke through the gate. And I thought, under the circumstances, he didn't run all that badly, even though I was wild with the race. So I think he's got a chance to run well. I don't think the Wine Steward wants to run this far. I think he's a sprinter. He's undefeated sprinting, and that's what I would do with him if he was mine. But they're still trying to make him a router. I'm going to go with Deterministic. How much do you trust him, and do you think I'm putting too much trust in the trainer here to pick him right back after such a poor run in the Wood?
Well, I mean, when you match him up against the other horses in the race, he's live in this particular spot. But I think overall, you're 100% right that he's going to be better going shorter. And with the 7 furlong Woody Stevens coming up in 4 weeks, you're not going to run in this race probably and then cut back to the Woody Stevens after back-to-back mile and an eighth. So I don't know why they just didn't lay him off from the Wood to the Woody Stevens and just sharpen him up and get him ready to sprint again. So, yeah, I'm not digging the move in that particular spot, but we know this horse, when he's good, he's really good. You know, the Saratoga win as a 2-year-old caught everybody's attention. And then his return win in the Gotham, sloppy track or not, was awfully good that day in the Gotham. Let's go back and take a look at that.
Here comes El Grandeo is looming up on the outside. These two head and head as they reach the top of the stretch. 46-3 for the half-mile time. 1:10-4 for 3/4. El Grandeo has got the lead in the Gotham. It's El Grandeo out in the center of the racetrack. Maximus Meridius is battling on, chasing is Deterministic in between horses. El Grandeo, but here comes Deterministic in full gear down towards the inside and takes the lead. It's Deterministic who's in front, is up by a length and a half. Just a touch into second. Deterministic wins the Gotham.
You know, Jeff, I'm usually on horses that are doing something harder than expected, not trying to find the easier path. That shows me confidence from the trainer that they're moving up. Tuscan Gold, to me, would have gotten a beautiful setup in this race, and a mile and an eighth would have been much, much the best, I think, in this particular spot against these horses, because we say Deterministic, I don't know about 9 furlongs. The Wine Stewart, don't know about 9 furlongs. Tuscan Gold would have been beautiful in this spot to win for $200,000. They're running for, $1.5 million, $2 million next week in the Preakness Stakes instead. That's usually a good sign to me. So I like to see that if you're looking ahead to the Middle Jewel and the Triple Crown. This race, you would think, runs through one of those two classy horses, Deterministic or the Wine Stewart. But I could see Antiquarian kind of being a little bit better for maybe the mile and an eighth trip than some of these. So, Antiquarian would be no shock in here. I don't think it's a open and shut case. And in a short field, you're still not going to get a big price on, say, the third choice of this race. You're going to have to beat the two favorites and probably only get 4-1 or 7-2 to do it. Yeah. So from a gambling standpoint, this is one that you might want to, pair up in multi-race wagers, because you've got the Man of War coming up, races 6 to race 7. So I wouldn't mess around with exactas or intra-race bets in this particular spot, even win bets, because I don't think you're going to get much value in the 6th. Look for a daily double, races 6 to race 7, and let the field size work for you a little bit in the Man of War and the competitiveness of that race, and maybe the daily double play from the Peter Pan 6th race to the 7th might be the way to go. Let's talk about the Man of War Stakes, Jeff. It's race number 7 on the card. Mile and 3/8 on the grass. Again, they're off the turf today in New York, but you would expect this grade 2 race, 400,000, to be on the grass tomorrow. And if it is on the grass, but there's going to be some give in the ground. It's been a wet week in the Northeast. So I always say handicap the parentheses. It's what you just do. Look for the horses with the foreign breeding or the foreign running lines, that they have more experience on this kind of ground. And you've got some options in this race with that, right? Cortez, So High, Silver Knot, Nation's Pride. We've got a lot of international intrigue in this year's race.
Yeah, here's what I did. I looked at Cortez, who won the Pan American in his U.S. debut. I looked at his form in Europe, and I said, okay, first 3 finishers in that race are back here, and he won that race. I like the way he won it.
Right.
His form suggests over there that he wasn't quite up to Silver Knot or certainly Nation's Pride. So if I use him as a kind of a guide, as a gauge,
right,
I really think the 2 Appleby horses are better than him. They were overseas for sure. Now the question is, how fit is Nation's Pride? How well meant is he? Usually Appleby doesn't give horses races. They're usually pretty fit.
Right.
And Nation's Pride is a very good horse when he wants to be. Plus, he won over this course and distance a couple of years back with Frankie, who rides him here. So you kind of expect he's going to come back as well as he left. And a very, very good horse. And Silver Knot coming off a nice win in the Elkhorn. Again, a lesser field, but he still won. And he's got good tactical speed in the race that, may have a little bit of pace, but they won't be going fast. Right. I'm just going to have to trust the trainer again and assume that Appleby's got Nation's Pride ready to win, because he's the best horse in the race. He's run well fresh in the past. Just a matter of him coming over. He hasn't been out, he hasn't been off a long time. I mean, he's probably been kept in light training, and looks like he's been breezing here for a while. So for me, Nation's Pride, I don't know whether 8-5 is any kind of gambling number or not, but I'd like to see him win just because, we could use some help in that division, and he's one of the best around.
Over 11 furlongs, he's a true stayer. He's a grinder. He just kind of keeps coming. Witnessed by his win last year up at Woodbine when he won the Canadian National with a long stretch run that day, but he's just kept coming.
Nation's Pride is now asked to rustle up in second and battling away as Adamo, but it's a two-horse war at the moment, and Royal Champion's lead being whittled down gradually, a length and 3/4. Nation's Pride coming on. Nation's Pride coming with every stride, getting the leader now, and Nation's Pride's taken over and will come away and win the Canadian International. A very impressive display, and it's William Buick and Nation's Pride 2.5.
If you're looking for a price in this spot, maybe Greek Order. This is one that has some of that English experience and pedigree, should like the softer going. And it's that form cycle we've talked about, second off the layoff and sprint the route. I mean, they only went a mile last time with a horse who's a stayer here, and now they get the 11 furlong. So it's almost a sprint the route kind of move here by Bill Mott. Second time with the barn, second off the layoff by Kingman, bred to run a lot longer than the mile last time, and just kind of ran okay and picked up his feet a little bit at the end of that mile. But this is a horse with soft ground, a longer distance, second off the layoff, might improve in here at a decent number. So Greek Order one in here that I'll give a little bit of a shot to, but you got to beat the Applebys, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. And so Silver Knot, Nation's Pride over Greek Order, probably the way for me to attack the race.
Yeah, I could see that. Absolutely.
Let's go back to the schedule here as we shift from our 4 races at Belmont at the Big A to head around the country now to first up to Churchill Downs, where the Mamie Stakes will be 5.5 furlongs on the turf. This is a $225,000 turf sprint with a capacity field in here. I'm About to Go is a horse who just let loose last time at Fairgrounds. Let's take a look back at that victory, and we'll tell you why that's Jeff's top pick.
Intermittent Fast straightens away in third. Then toward the inside is Share the Blessing with Reagan's Flame, Tipsy Runner in the red cap, Copper and Blue Heavenly. We trail back then to Fleet Frost. It's I'm About to Go. They're deep in the final furlong and a half with Cherith Laberry. I'm About to Go is looking good with Integrated Design and Intermittent Fast between fillies. Late bid by on the outside Tipsy Runner and Share the Blessing. I'm About to Go. I'm About to Go. 2 for 2. I'm About to Go 1 by 4.
Every time we get a Fairgrounds turf sprint, it seems like we see somebody win off like that. I'm About to Go as a dominant winner there for Wesley Ward, and Ward could have himself a big weekend with some turf sprint stakes all around the country. Jeff, tell us about this one and your pick in the Mamselle.
Good filly. Broker maiden first time out of Gulfstream Park. Got a 66 buyer number, even though she ran 55-2 in the last 8 11-1. I mean, what does it take to get a bigger, better number? You got to go like 51 or something. Anyway, she took that race, went and just off that race came back in the Fairgrounds race we just saw. This time she earned a more respectable 82 buyer, so she improved 16 points. Won that race by 3 1/4. What we didn't show was the start of the race. She was like a rocket ship out of the gate. She broke running. She had the outside 9 hole that day, got over in an instant, and then came back to the rider, and then was chirped to into the stretch and gave a second move.
Right.
And this was just her second career start. 3-year-old Irish bred filly trained by Wesley Ward. I don't see any reason why she can't successfully stage this class hike as well, although it is a more contentious race. The thing about it is, I mean, Nikki Nine Doors, who's drawn right inside of her, earned a good number when breaking the maiden at Keeneland. I know you saw that race. I don't know where her early zip came from, but that race left her previous form behind. So I'm About to Go is probably going to have to hook up with her. But the good news is she's outside, and she looks to me like she's handy enough, whereas if Nikki Nine Doors is going to outrun her, I think she probably could sit second without too much of an issue because she does look like a push-button filly. There's a pretty good race. I mean, you always like to see full fields and form fillies with form, and there are enough closers in here so that if the leaders get a little vulnerable, they get kind of a chaotic finish there. But I think this is a good filly, and I'm expecting her to come back and take the racing class in stride.
Nikki Nindor's a $52 winner at Keeneland, and we weren't expecting the Turfway horses to have success at Keeneland to the degree that they did. We knew it would be better because that Turfway meet has gotten better over the last 2 years, but they were dominant at Keeneland this year. And not only on the main track, which is kind of the MO at Keeneland with the Turfway horses, they don't ever win on the turf, it seemed like, until this year. They were winning on the turf left and right even. So you saw Nikki Nindor's, that was one of those upsets from Turfway to Keeneland on the grass. Don't be surprised if Nice's Pie, who's got that fantastic 4 wins in a row at Turfway, is going to fit on the grass here at Churchill for that exact same reason. Those Turfway synthetic horses carried their form, if not improved their form, when they came to Keeneland and ran, and even on the grass. I wouldn't be surprised if Nice's Pie, a tremendous late kick for this filly, she's going to be running at the end. And if they go fast, we'll see if Adam Piscita, who likes to hug the rail, if he can rally up the inside and find somewhere to run. But Nice's Pie's got 4 wins in a row, and that form probably needs to be respected a little bit more than you would have, say, 2 months ago before the Keeneland meet started. You'd say, yeah, it was Turfway form. Now they're running stakes on the grass in the big leagues in Kentucky. I wouldn't be so dismissive of the form right now. Nicest Pie probably has a shot in here late, but we will see. Nikki Nindor's, I'm about to go. Horses early in this race going at it for sure, Jay.
Yeah, if Nicest Pie can reproduce her all-weather form on grass, she's a 9-5 morning line favorite. So it's not like she doesn't belong numbers-wise. She's right there, and they're gonna ride her just like she needs to be ridden. Settle, blast home, and if you get enough help up front, you can tag the speed. It's a one of these volatile races where you could see the speed sticking or the speed collapsing, and that makes for good gambling, because if you're right about that, then you can really zero in on the main contenders here. Really interesting race here.
Let's turn our attention now to Gulfstream Park, but we're going to stay in the turf sprint ranks. The Mamselle at Churchill for the older fillies and mares. The 2-year-old fillies are in the spotlight in the Royal Palm Juvenile Fillies Saturday at Gulfstream Park. That will be race 8 of 10. A full field of 12 enters here. The key is this is a tie-in to Royal Ascot. If you win one of these Royal Palm Juvenile Fillies or Juvenile Stakes races Saturday at Gulfstream Park, you get your pick of which 2-year-old race at Royal Ascot you want to run in. Last year, George Weaver won both these races on the undercard. He took Crimson Advocate, one of those two, over to Europe, and he won the Queen Mary. So you can take this path and get the Royal Ascot and win on the world stage. We saw it happen just a year ago. So we're going to handicap both the 8th and 10th Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Starting with the 8th, it is the Juvenile Fillies in the Royal Palm Series, $120,000, 5/8 of a mile, the turf sprint distance down at Gulfstream Park. The aforementioned George Weaver's got the 3 in here. Bunratty Manor, first-time starter. Weaver also has Good Long Cry in here, the 10. So he's 12-1 and 10-1 in Brian Natto's morning lines. Perfect Chances, the 9-5 favorite in here for Wesley Ward. Jeff coming off a nice win at Keeneland in the debut.
This is a very fast filly. A couple of things I look at here, Jeremy. First of all, when you win as impressively, and we'll take a look at that race in a sec, but when you win that impressively, the first thing I noticed is, okay, was this expected? And this filly was 1-2 in this race. So yes, it was expected.
Right.
And Chance-a-Lot could get you, or should get you, a fast horse. And you talk about, she won by almost 5 lengths, but boy, do you talk about doing it the right way. Now, it was a sloppy track, but I don't think that mattered. I mean, she was just visually so impressive for Wesley. It's going to be, and she broke like a filly who'd run 10 times. I mean, she just shot out of the work. She's done to these things that she shot out of the gate, made the lead, switched off, opened up, cruised to the wire, never asked to drop. I mean, all she really has to do, unless there's some world beater in here that I don't know about, all she really has to do is reproduce that form on grass. I don't see how she gets beat.
Let's go back to the Keeneland debut win. It was a sloppy day, as it was many days at the Keeneland meet. We'll see here through the mud. It's Perfect Chances.
It's still 7 from the front. They turn for home, and Perfect Chances is the leader. Perfect Chances on top by 2 lengths, chased all the way by Citizen Judy, moving into the final furlong. Her Holy Name is now up to 3rd, but is still 6 lengths behind the leader. And the leader's coming to the 16th pole. Perfect Chances in front for Walter Rodriguez. Perfect Chances winning here at Keeneland. Citizen Judy.
Easy victory there for Perfect Chances. She'll be the favorite to come back and do it again. The Queen's MG also was a winner at Keeneland in her career debut. She was a big upset winner at 45-1. So much so that C2 Racing and Company dipped into their pockets and privately purchased that one. Now switched to Saffie Joseph Jr.'s barn. So it'll be interesting to see what the other Keeneland winner in this race, the Queen's MG, looks like. Again, off the purchase and coming right here, maybe with intent. I mean, this was just a $3,500 purchase by 1,000 words, and they paid a lot more than that to privately purchase this one, but maybe with the idea that we know this race is coming up and a shot to get the Royal Ascot. So the Queen's MG, interesting in this spot, but if you miss the wedding at 45-1, you probably don't attend the funeral at a shorter price here.
But didn't the runner-up come back and win the stake at Churchill? So maybe that franks the
West Memorial.
But I from what I saw, Perfect Chances, I mean, I don't see anybody get in front of her, and she won so easily. Again, going 5/8 of a mile on grass. You better not make any mistakes coming out of the gate. And we'll just have to see if she can transfer that form. I did have the opportunity to watch some of these on video in the workouts in the morning. We had an XB TV, and there was nothing that I saw in the workouts that I would be too concerned about. So I think those that have had the experience will have the edge here.
I'm always curious. We see the Wesley Ward horses dominated Keeneland in the spring, right? I mean, he's just phenomenal there. Wins over 50% of the 2-year-old races there at Keeneland annually. So I went to BetMix and ran in the program to see what does Wesley Ward do with these Keeneland winners in their next start. He wins over 22% next out with these 2-year-olds who break their maiden at Keeneland in the 4.5 furlong spring dashes. That's a pretty good number when you consider there aren't allowance races to go into for 2-year-olds, right? So almost every one of these horses is stepping up into a stakes in New York or in Kentucky or now in Florida here. So 22% win rate with his Keeneland 2-year-old winners back next time. That's a pretty strong number there. So don't be surprised if Perfect Chances runs well here. Ward did have horses bet and beat in this race last year, but again, that's a very small sample size that they've only run these Royal Palm Juvenile races last year, and now this being the second go around for it. Speaking of second go arounds, the Colts get their second try in race number 10. The Fillies started things off in race number 8, the $120,000 Royal Palm Juvenile. Again, same implications here. You get to pick your stakes that you want to run in at Royal Ascot if you win this race. Again, George Weaver won both of these stakes last year. He's got Governor Sam in this particular spot, 9-2 on Brian's morning line here. Governor Sam will be second choice in the morning line to Raise the Bar, another Wesley Ward in here. Ward's horse, Raise the Bar, won in 52 flat at Keeneland of the 9 2-year-old races at the meet. It was second fastest on the clock. And like we saw earlier, it was over a wet track. Let's go back and check out Raise the Bar.
Third, 5 lengths off the leader, Enduring Spirit. Fourth on the outside, and Raise the Bar has the lead. Opens up here by 3 lengths coming past the 8th pole. Raise the Bar is in front. Tuxedo Park takes aim, runs on from second on the outside. Final 16th, though, for Raise the Bar, who's not been asked for much here from John Velasquez. And Raise the Bar just cruises on home to take this race for 2-year-olds. Tuxedo Park was second. Akin Musari rallied up for third, and then Mohair Sam finished in fourth.
Akin Musari in that race came back and ran well in the Kentucky Juvenile a week ago at Churchill Downs. So that's a pretty live race that Raise the Bar comes out of as well. Jeff, talk about this one.
Well, he doesn't have any grass pedigree to speak of, but boy, what a good mover he is. Again, very similar to what we saw from the filly. I mean, cruise control through the lane, never asked to drop, showed excellent speed as you'd expect a son of McLean's music to do. And since then, he's got a breeze over the grass. I assume he was satisfactory in that move. We didn't see it, but again, having that race under his belt and being so impressive and going at 5/8 of a mile, bred to be the blinding speed horse that he is. Raise the Bar looks very, very tough to beat. Now, I want to mention Governor Sam because he's got a couple of Palm Beach Downs work showing that we don't have on video. They don't look particularly impressive. It's hard to tell. But let me tell you about Governor Sam. This is a colt that was in the 2-year-old maintaining sale and breezed an 1/8 of a mile over the all-weather in Ocala in 9 4/5 seconds. And there was obviously no reason to ask him for anything after that. Right. The thing about his work is he could not have looked any better. What a beautiful mover. What a great athlete. sometimes when you work 9 and 4 over there and you're whipping and driving and the heads up and they're all out, and then it doesn't leave you with a good taste in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
This colt is an athlete. I'm telling you, he's a really, really good colt, which is why they gave as much money as they gave for a stallion who, number one, doesn't figure to get a fast horse, and number two, has never had a runner yet. So, I mean, that colt was bought on the breeze alone. Now, he's going to have to be really good to outrun Raise the Bar, who's got the proven form yet. But I'm really curious to see how Governor Sam is. And Improbable is, unfortunately, lost him not too long ago as a stallion. He died unexpectedly, but he was a son of City Zip. I'm not even sure if he ever ran on grass, but of course, Zip was a turf horse. So there's no reason why Governor Sam won't like the grass. He breathes well on the all weather, and he is good. I mean, he is really, really good. And Raise the Bar may probably be advised not to make any mistakes here, because that's a running son of a gun right outside of him. But again, if I had to choose one or the other, I'd go with the proven element in Raise the Bar.
I'll give you another one to watch in here. I think this is the much stronger of the two races. I just think there's more meat on the bone for a handicapper in terms of like pedigree and works and information like you talked about with the 2-year-old sale work and everything like that. The 5 Reach for the Rose in here. It's Ken Ramsey, homebred. The mare side, you've got a 2-year-old stakes winner there on the dam side. Audible, the sire, has an excellent record with Gulfstream turf horses. Of course, Audible, Florida Derby winner. I think he might have won the Holy Bull as well, but he was, main track, but he is producing turf horses that run well over this turf course down at Gulfstream. So I think this one's really live. Safi Joseph, first time starter with a big work, 40, third fastest at 28, working 48 flat around the dogs down at Gulfstream on the turf. When you got 2-year-olds working as fast as older horses this time of year, those 2-year-olds shouldn't be working like third of 48 or third of 28 against older horses. So I think this one might be pretty good. Reach for the Rose, one I think to keep an eye on. And Mark Cassie's got a couple in here that are well bred by War of Will. Of course, we know War of Will, the Preakness winner, but he went on to become a Grade 1 winner on turf as well. There'd be no surprise at all if he doesn't turn out to be a really nice turf sire. And Gary Barber and Mark Cassie have a couple well-bred War of Wills in here in which ones are the War of Wills? Classy War, the 4, and then the outside horse, Garden of War. So there's some good options. This is a fun betting race in here. 12 entered again. 9 of them are first-time starters, but I think there's a little bit to grab a hold of in here. So this is going to be a fun race in here. And it looks like the stronger Ward's in this race and the stronger Weaver are in this race. And those are the two trainers you're looking at, right? Because it's Wesley Ward with turf sprinting 2-year-olds. And, of course, George Weaver swept both of these races last year. So you figure he's aiming something to come back here and try to do it again. So Ward and Weaver have really strong hand to play in here, but we've got some other good options too. This is a fun race here in the juvenile.
The horses you mentioned, Garden of War, Reach for the Rose, we have workouts for these colts on XBTV, and they're promising. I don't know how quick they are. It's hard to tell. They weren't really asked to show a lot of blazing speed, and I think in this race, Raise the Bar and Governor Sam will show that speed. But again, even if you don't win this race, and obviously you'd like to if you're the owner, get a free trip to Royal Ascot. But this race is going to be productive. I mean, down the road, you're going to see some really nice horses in here. It's a race absolutely worth watching for future reference.
There's probably 4 horses in this race that are going to come back at 4 to 5 in a maiden race next. You're going to come away impressed with several in here, and they're going to get an easier spot perhaps next time. All right, let's go back to the schedule and change gears from Gulfstream to Santa Anita on Saturday, where the Santa Barbara goes as a race number 9, mile and a half on the turf. So we got some turf sprints, we got some turf routes and marathons for you. The Santa Barbara starts down the hill at Santa Anita. That makes a full lap around the turf course proper. Jeff, who do you like in this one? The 9th on the card at Santa Anita on Saturday.
Musical Rhapsody has a lot going for her. First of all, she's proven at a mile and a half. She actually won a mile and a half race at Dundalk on the all-weather last year. And this year, at a mile and a half in the Astra, she finished second to Linda's Gift, which is impressive because nobody beats Linda's Gift in California. So I'm going to give her an asterisk there and say, well, you really won the race because nobody beats Linda's Gift, so I'm not going to hold that against. And she comes off a nice win at a mile and a quarter in an allowance race. But that allowance race was really just as tough as this. And the way she won it and the way she galloped out, I think Phil D'Amato has this Irish bred mare ready for another win. And the way she won her last start, numbers are solid. I like Musical Rhapsody to continue her winning ways.
Let's go back to that allowance win, and you'll notice announcer Frank Miramati picks her up right at the right time.
Musical Rhapsody is making steady headway and's got some run too. Musical Rhapsody, yellow and purple, angling to the outside for the drive. A clear shot now for Musical Rhapsody and Mike Smith with a furlong left to go, and here she comes. Musical Rhapsody set down, full of run, blows by the rest. And it's going to be Musical Rhapsody. A nice ride and a solid performance. Vincero Grande was second.
You know, Jeff, that's an underrated trait for a track announcer, to go back to Frank on that call there. Like, we want our track announcers to be accurate, to call things properly or whatever like that. But the good ones pick things up before they happen, and they're right about it. You know, sometimes they'll be like, oh, watch out for so-and-so, and then the horse doesn't really have much. The good announcers know when a horse is loaded and when they're looking for room and when they need it. Part of that preparation, of course, knowing who the top players in a race are and their running styles and such. Travis Stone with a fantastic call of the Kentucky Derby, as we continue to kind of give some plaudits to, track announcers. It's one thing to call them properly in order and not mess up the numbers and all that. You know, that's kind of like the given. We expect the play-by-play announcer to get the right batter stepping up to the plate, but it's the great calls that we remember, and the technical ability, just see things before they happen and anticipate them. It's probably what separates the good announcers from the great ones.
You know, Frank, we enjoy him so much out here, and he's did such a great job at Saratoga last year. One thing I'll say about Frank, he doesn't always step out like that. I mean, he doesn't always. But when he does, he's never wrong.
Right.
If you've got a horse under pressure or some kind of negative kind of call at the 3/8 pole or something, forget it, you're dead.
Yeah, right.
So he's one again. The way I grade announcers, and Frank is number one in my book, is that if you listen to his call and you're not watching the race, you're really watching the race, because he's telling you everything you need to know and more. You don't have to watch the race. And so anyway, what a treat it is to have him out here. So, and like I say, he's never wrong.
And for your sake, I hope he's calling Musical Rhapsody to the winner's circle in the Santa Barbara again on Saturday's card. That is going to be part of the Coast to Coast Pick 5 on Saturday. Of course, the feature race, or I should say the Santa Barbara, not part of the Pick 5. The two stakes races from Gulfstream Park, races 8 and 10, are part of the Coast to Coast Pick 5. Santa Anita's Coast to Coast Pick 5 races on Saturday will be the 3rd and the 7th. So races 8, 9, and 10 from Gulfstream for our audio listeners, and then races 3 and 7 from Santa Anita are the Coast to Coast Pick 5 races. Once again, Gulfstream 8, 9, 10, Santa Anita 3, 7. Those are your Coast to Coast Pick 5 races. Low 15% takeout coming up Saturday and Sunday. Again, Saturdays includes those pair of stakes, the Royal Palm Juvenile and the Royal Palm Juvenile Fillies. Also, if you're betting those races, be sure to take advantage with Express Bet and First Bet. Register for the promos, but a $10 money back special on races 8 and 10 on Saturday. So if your win bet at Gulfstream on Saturday in the Royal Palm Juvenile Fillies or Juvenile finishes 2nd or 3rd, you get up to $10 back in your account. Playing those first-time starters and lightly raced horses. Maybe you take a shot against the favorite. Maybe you go with the favorite and have yourself a little bit of buffer to go with. But you've got those money-back specials to hang your hat on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. And also a reminder, if you're playing the late pick 5 at Aqueduct on Saturday on that big Peter Pan Day card, we've got a $10,000 hit and split. So if you hit the late pick 5, you get not only your pari-mutuel winnings, but up to $10,000 shared with other players just on the First Bet and Express Bet platforms who happen to hit that. Scott Shapiro's got a blog up for you already for Peter Pan Day, late pick 5. So if you're playing those races at Belmont at the Big A on Saturday, check out Scott's picks for that promotion and the late pick 5. And of course, the Coast to Coast Pick 5, you always get 10 times Express Bet and First Bet wager rewards points when you bet that with our platform. So if you're playing the Coast to Coast Pick 5 on Saturday or Sunday, be sure to do it with us. Jeff, that's going to wrap things up. We get to come back on Tuesday. And when we come back on Tuesday for the it's official pot field for the Preakness Stakes, because that all enters on Monday at Old Hilltop. So looking forward to seeing the entries for the Preakness. And will we see Mystic Dan? He was back on the track. Good news there, 3 days in a row since he returned to the track on Wednesday. He galloped this morning, racing with Bruno. Had some footage of that on Twitter today. So it's good to see Mystic Dan back. And we expect now, I think he'll be in the Preakness.
I think he will. Will he be favored over Muth? Probably not. because
Yeah.
people are going to look at that and say, well, Muth beat him pretty convincingly in
Yeah.
the Arkansas Derby, and the way Muth has been training, he is going to take some beating for sure. But the Preakness really needs the Derby winner, and I hope he shows up. I think he will. Why not? And make that race special and the entire day special, and of course, tremendous competition in the undercard races as well. Always fun to handicap the undercard races at Pimlico, and of course, Black Eyed Susan Day on Friday as well. So good racing at Pimlico. Can't wait to dive in and get started.
Yeah, we'll head to Old Hilltop and check it out. We'll give you all the previews next week on It's Official Tuesday. We'll take a look at our first look at the field and all the hot topics. And then in our handicapping podcast here, the First Call podcast, we will move it up a day to Thursday next week. And we'll have that for you on Thursday, which will give you a look at Black Eyed Susan Day on Friday, maybe a look at the Black Eyed Susan Stakes, Pimlico Special also on Friday, and then all the big races on Preakness Day for Saturday. So we'll have that for you next week. That wraps things up for this week's show. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and follow and share this with all your friends so we can build our audience here on the First Call podcast and It's Official on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Good luck, everybody, and we'll talk to you on Tuesday when we'll know the field for Preakness 149.